football. It's personal between me and you, and I'm going to do you some serious harm, you big stiff idiot.
The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing game's been missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, this is my official post-fight review from the Don King fights last night. You know, Bermane Stiverne, Jonathan Guidry, and don't worry, we will get to Bermane Stiverne and Jonathan Guidry because that was the main event. But really, honestly, and truthfully, the real main event was not Bermane Stiverne versus Jonathan Guidry. Oh, no. The real main event was actually a fight that took place 2 fights before with Bermane Stiverne and Jonathan Guidry. And I actually have the whole fight recorded on my phone. So, not too long after this video posts, I will upload the whole fight so you guys can watch it for yourself, for your own viewing pleasure. And you can actually see what I'm talking about. So stay tuned. But that fight is none other than the middleweight fight between middleweight contender who's number 10 of the WBA middleweight rankings, Ian Green. He was coming into this fight with a lot to prove. Been through a lot in his career and in his life from what I learned about him interviewing him this week. Good fighter, experienced fighter, been in there sparring with guys like Derevyanchenko and Berlanga and Julian Williams and done rounds with Crawford. So he's experienced, good fighter, But he was taking on a guy, Alexander Castro, right? Alexander Castro, 11-0, 9 knockouts. Hadn't really fought, in the States. Hadn't really fought on a stage like this. Hadn't really tested himself against a guy like Ian Green. So more of the unknown commodity, Alexander Green. But man, oh man, I had a feeling this would be a good fight because I felt like both guys were so hungry to prove their worth in the sport and prove their worth in the middleweight division. And this division is looking so desperately, for somebody to rise up and take the reins. And what we got in this fight, honestly, and you guys know I've gone to my fair share of fights over the last couple of years, traveling around the country. It's one of the best fights I've been to be honest with you. One of the best fights I've seen in person, right there ringside, is this fight. Let's talk about it, man. So the fight got off to a blazing start in the early rounds. Round 1, Alexander Castro came out like a house on fire. He was lighting up Ian Green. I mean, Ian Green had a nice tight guard, but some of them punches were getting around the guard and penetrating the guard. Straight right hands, left hook. I mean, Castro fought like a hungry fighter with a lot to prove to make his name in the sport. And he actually wound up cutting Ian Green. I think it was above his left eye. He had a big gash, a cut around his left eye. And he was asked and faced with adversity very early in this fight. And to what I was told from Ian Green and his team, it's the first time he's ever been cut in his professional boxing career. So Castro had this dude dead to rights. He had him hurt. He had taken him to a deep, dark, uncomfortable place very early in the fight. So Ian Green had to survive, and Castro had to show the extra bit of quality to get him out of there. And as the fight went on, I think Ian Green's veteran experience kind of helped him. He wasn't able to. Castro wasn't able to get him out of there. Green stayed in a nice, tight, high guard the whole fight, and he started to work that left hook. Around the guard of Castro, which was a key punch from him, a punch that I ultimately think won him the fight. But anyway, I digress. By the third round, I remember when he came out for the third round, the cut had subsided. That they had done a good job of closing that cut up in the corner. And just by body language, I thought Ian Green was recovered by the third round, and he had his wits about him. And it was a pretty even fight through 4 rounds and some change. I mean, I wasn't scoring it, but from what I remember, it was just a pretty even nip and tuck type of fight 4 or 5 rounds in. But I think in the middle rounds, that's where the experience of the class that Ian Green really started to show. Castro did some great things in the fight, like he letting his hands go and being that high volume aggressive fighter. But his punches started to kind of he started slapping his punches in the middle rounds, and then he couldn't defend the left hook, and that's what Ian Green kept throwing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So Ian Green just kept hitting him over and over and over again with that left hook, and that's what was winning him a lot of the rounds. And the most impressive thing about this fight, I'll be honest with you, is that there was no knockdowns, that nobody was really dropped. Because Castro was hurt a couple times, Ian Green was hurt early in the fight, and close affair, close fight. I think it could have went either way. I liked the clean, effective punching from Ian Green. I liked the fact that he continued to be the aggressor on the front foot, and I just think when they exchanged, he just had better of the exchanges. That's just what it was. That to me, that from when I was watching the fight, that's what won him the fight to me. And the judges agree with what I thought because they gave Ian Green the fight. I'll read you guys the scorecards. Fernando Barbosa, who I know personally, good friend of the channel, he scored 96-94 to Ian Green. Gloria Martinez gave it 94-96 for Castro, and John Rupert scored at 96-94 for Ian Green. So a close fight. Ian Green winds up, and I believe, and still, because I believe he was WBA Continental Americas champion, and yes, he was. So, and still WBA Continental Americas champion. So you look at this 3-fight run for Ian Green, right? Ian Green is on a nice little 3-fight run. You know, a couple fights ago he knocked out, or he beat, not knocked out, but he beat 3 fights ago. He beat undefeated middleweight contender at that time, 19-0 Tyler Howard, and I know Tyler Howard. I know of him because I've seen him fight because he's from Tennessee. He's like the only boxer besides Caleb playing from Tennessee, so he's pretty easy to remember. Experienced guy, you know. Ian Green beat him pretty soundly. Then on the Dubois Bryant undercard, which I was at, and I remember watching this fight. He beat Anthony Lenk by decision, and then now this fight, he beats a very young, hungry, undefeated Colombian fighter. So 2 undefeated fighters back in his last 3 fights. Won the Continental Americas title, defended the Continental Americas title, showed you everything. He showed in these last couple of fights. Ian Green showed you boxing skills. He showed you the ability to punch. He showed you the ability to be a dog and grind it out. So to me, you know, middleweight, like I said, middleweight is looking for somebody to kind of rise up and show themselves to be something in the division. You know, Ian Green's at a nice age. He's 29. You know, he's the young general. Patterson, New Jersey, you know, fuck it. I'm on the Ian Green train, man. I like him. I think he's a good fighter, and I want to see him get his shot. And right now, you look at where he's at in the rankings, you know, just above him at number 9. He's 10. At 9, he has Shane Mosley. 8, Danny Garcia. 7, Thomas Lamana. You know, there's some good fights there for him. I would personally like to see him fight Thomas Lamana or Shane Mosley Jr. But then you got Austin Emma Williams at 3. You got Ryota Murata, former champion, at 4. You got Sergio Martinez at 2. You know, I think there's good fights out there in the WBA rankings for Ian Green, and I want to see him get those fights. You know what I'm saying? So make this shit happen, man. You got to make it happen sooner rather than later. And as for Castro, and it's crazy, I'm already 8 minutes in about this fight, but that should tell you guys how good this fight was. The fact that I'm spending almost 8 minutes talking about this fight. So when it posts here on True School Sports, please go watch the fight. It's like 32 minutes long. Go watch it. But Castro, you know, I think it was a great showing for his first fight in America. I don't think this loss is a death sentence for him. He performed very well, gets a experienced fighter, and I think the experience in this fight ultimately wound up being the difference for him. Had he been a bit more experienced going to the fight, maybe it's a different outcome. But look how close it was, considering the lack of opposition he had. So I want to see Castro again. I want to see him, you know, built up and fight in America on some cards. He definitely has some potential. You know, he brought some Colombian fans to this fight. You know, there were a lot of Colombians in the crowd cheering for him. And, you know, Colombia is not really a boxing nation, so maybe they can build him up here in Miami as an attraction. And guys, I think they have something there. I think he's a good fighter. So, you know, respect to him. There will be no negative talk about Ian Green or Alexander Castro on this channel from your boy BT, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But pivoting off that, right, you know, other fight on the card, main event. We'll get to the main event, and then we'll get to the 2 other fights. But the main event was Bermane Stiverne versus Jonathan Guidry. You know, it was an interesting fight. Not so much for Stiverne, because Stiverne, he's seen better days, and those many years ago. But Stiverne had the body language at the weigh-in, at the press conference of, not the press conference, but at the weigh-in, he had the body language of a guy that I think was just there for the check. That's just my opinion. But former WBC heavyweight champion, definitely the biggest name on Jonathan Guidry's resume. Guidry coming off of a big win against Daiquiri Mack Truck Smith. Really, the onus to me was on Guidry to really put on a show and show that he was, you know, someone to be reckoned with in the heavyweight division and make a statement. You know, knock out Stiverne, put yourself on the map. And to be honest with you, it was a very, very lackluster fight. You know, a lot of posturing and posing from both these guys. There really wasn't much action until about the 12th round, honestly. Guidry was the more active fighter. He was busier, so I think the judges gave him a lot of the rounds based on that. He winds up winning a decision, and now he beat Daiquiri Smith, Mack Truck Smith out in the last fight as the underdog. Fight before that, he fought Trevor Bryan when nobody knew who he was and pushed him and damn near beat him. And now he's beating Stiverne. So Guidry is establishing himself at a certain level in this heavyweight division. And right now, as it stands, he is the number 12 ranked WBA heavyweight. And right now, Anthony Joshua's 4. So listen, I know it's crazy. It may sound crazy, but just don't be surprised. He may get a call for a big fight. You may see Guidry get the big call for like a Joshua, just because like he's not a world beater. He's not no great heavyweight, but he moves his hands. He's for the most part entertaining fighter. He was entertaining this fight because Stiverne just wouldn't let his hands go, and that's just what it is. As far as Stiverne, I think it's that time, brother. Like Stiverne, met him on multiple occasions, interviewed him. Great person, great guy. Don't have nothing bad about to say about him. You know, his name will always be in history books as the first Haitian fighter to win a heavyweight belt. But come on, man, like it's that time. It's that time, you know. So I'm gonna leave it at that. You know, good. You know, credit to both men for getting into the boxing ring. So there's that fight as well. And then the fight that I was actually the most excited about going into the next fight on the card was the welterweight fight. You know, you had number 11, I believe he's 11, number 11 ranked WBA welterweight. He is number 11, number 11 ranked WBA welterweight. Tre'Sean Wiggins, the guy that I had a great interview with, candid interview with, a guy that spoke glowingly about his life in boxing and just was real, just a real authentic dude, you know. Fought everybody. Fought Richardson Hitchens, Brandon Pizarro, Michael Fox, Jason Sosa, and the list goes on and on. Just a really great resume. Been in camp, you know, everybody at key points of their career. You know, he was Kavaluskis' sparring partner, Mean Machine's sparring partner for the Crawford fight. He was Danny Garcia's sparring partner for the Zab Judah fight. He was also Sean Porter's sparring partner for the Spence fight. So this is the guy that's been in with high-level guys, and you saw that high-level polished ways of Tre'Sean in this fight as he took on Nigel Fennell. Met both these men, interviewed them both. I actually kind of was sad that they both fought each other because I liked them both so much as people. They were nice people. Nigel Fennell, more of an unknown commodity out there in San Diego by way of Richmond, by way of Virginia. This was a big test for him. And this is a fight that I think, again, the more experienced guy kind of shows his class in the fight. Tre'Sean's been around the block multiple times as to where Nigel Fennell was still kind of learning on the job. Nigel, I thought, had success when he threw punches, but he just had a hard time getting into the position to throw the punches because if you watch the fight, and I'll have some of that fight as well here coming out on True School Sports, you guys can watch that as well. If you watch the fight, Nigel's his front foot, he couldn't get on the outside of Tre'Sean Wiggins' lead right foot, and it was just problematic for him the whole night, and it allowed Tre'Sean to set the distance and the tempo of the fight, and Tre'Sean just boxed a good fight. He was picking his shots real nicely from the mid-range and the outside. Wasn't the kind of fight that a casual boxing fan would like love, but definitely someone, if you're a boxing purist, you could really appreciate because Tre'Sean was doing this thing. And don't get it twisted, Nigel didn't throw as much as his trainers would have liked because they were bitching him out in the corner in between rounds because I sat right next to their corner. But I think when Nigel actually got in position to throw and he threw with volume, he was dangerous in the fight. So I think Nigel has to go back to the drawing board and just keep working, man. You know, a loss isn't a death sentence. It's a second pro loss. He's 13-2 now, but like I said, I don't think it's a death sentence, and he can still come back good, and he can still be in some really good fights in the welterweight division. So I'm holding out hope, man. I like Nigel Fennell a lot. I want to see him become like a top 25 guy in the welterweight division and really make a name for himself because he's got something there. He can come back better. I think he just needs a bit more seasoning. He needs to fight some better competition and get some wins and just learn how to win. He knows how to compete. Nigel Fennell knows how to compete, but now he's got to learn how to win, and that's always the hardest thing to do in boxing is when you're not that experienced, going from learning how to compete to learning how to get over the hump and win. So that's something that he's gonna have to work on, and I look forward to seeing him working on it. But Tre'Sean Wiggins wins again. He's made his intentions very clear that he wants these top guys. He's number 11 in the WBA. You look at some of the guys around his rankings. You know, you got Mekborn Sanigov, who I know very well. He trains down here in South Florida. He's at 10, just above Tre'Sean. I would love that fight. I think that'd be a tough fight for Mek. Jesus Ramos is 9. You got Gabriel Maestro at 7. Dennis Ugas, I know, is probably gonna look for a comeback fight. Why not Tre'Sean Wiggins? Keith Thurman, who Tre'Sean called out. You got him at 2. You got Jerron Ennis at 2. You got Virgil Ortiz at 1. So listen, man, Tre'Sean Wiggins has been overlooked for a long time. He's very experienced. You can't really say what he can or can't do until you give him a shot at the top guys. And he's fought a lot of top guys. I feel like he's earned his stripes. Look at his resume. Look who he's fought. He has earned his stripes as the B-side and come out victorious on multiple occasions. He's fought, you know, name after name in boxing. Jason Sosa, Brandon Pizarro, Richardson Hitchens. I mean, Michael Fox. It goes on and on and on and on. So Give him a shot, man. Give him a shot to prove what he can do to the world. And he's 32 years old, so this is a great time for him to get his shot, and just a good win for him. And then last but not least, the other fight on the card that I really want to highlight, and I would actually say this is probably the second most exciting fight that I saw on the card. It was the fight between a local fighter down here, Raynel Meduros. You know, Meduros is I believe he's a 140-pound prospect. This fight was at a catchweight. Raynel Meduros, trained by Jorge Rubio, good friend of the program. He fought Nelson Morales. Now, I didn't know a whole lot about Nelson Morales, but Nelson Morales from the Dominican Republic, by way of Scranton, Pennsylvania, you know, didn't have a whole lot of experience, but he really pushed Raynel Meduros. Meduros, I remember very well because his last fight I had a chance to watch on the undercard of Dubois versus Trevor Bryan, the last time they fought at that venue. And Meduros really stood out. I mean, he scored a devastating knockout in the second round of his last fight against a guy named Ryan Wilson. This time taking on Morales. Morales pushed him. Morales showed some good boxing ability early in the fight, and then Morales actually wound up dropping Meduros. So Meduros gets dropped, faced with some adversity. I don't know if that's the first time he's been dropped in his career, but you know, it's definitely a question that was asked of him early on, and I thought he boxed very well against a game fighter. Morales just kept coming over and over again. Thought he abandoned the jab a little bit. Would like to see him throw that jab a bit more, but Meduros, using that long, lanky, rangy frame, I thought did a great job of winning the exchanges and didn't drop Morales, but definitely was hitting him hard enough to get his respect. And he was able to do what we asked many fighters to do here on True School Sports and as boxing fans, which is when shit hits the fan and sometimes you don't look your best, you got to grind it out. And sometimes these guys who don't have the pretty records or the great amateur backgrounds aren't the biggest names. These can sometimes be the toughest fights for a fighter. So if a fighter can pass these kind of tests, it shows you that they're moving in the right direction. So Raynel Meduros, he wins the fight and he runs his record up to a nice and impressive 8-0. Two questions for Raynel, and this is my honest opinion of him. He's one of these Cuban fighters. I'm not sure exactly what his amateur background is. I'm going to assume he had a big amateur background because it seems like every freaking Cuban that comes here to Miami has a big amateur background. But, you know, so far in his career, you know, he's 8-0, but only has 2 knockouts. So not a lot of knockouts, not a lot of power from Meduros. Honestly, not a whole lot of power from him. He's been dropped now. So, you know, as he starts stepping up the levels, you know, I'm not sure how Meduros is gonna look or be. I got questions about him. He's gonna have to add some things to his game because if he doesn't have that pop, he's gonna have to be. If he doesn't have great power, he's gonna have to be great everywhere else. He's gonna have to be great at feinting, great at the jab, switching up the jab, and be an accurate puncher as well. If he's not great in these departments, he will falter when he steps up in competition. But I like him. I think he's good. He's only 26, so he's still got some room to grow and develop. So we'll see what happens with him. But as far as Morales, you know, Nelson Morales, good fighter. You know, he said he was coming out here to fight for his family. Just to give the man some credit. I think he did his family proud. You know, he boxed very well against a more experienced fighter. He just needs to, I think, become a more mentally disciplined fighter, and he might have found a way to actually grind that one out and win. But either way you cut it up, slice it, and dice it. Good fight from them. Great fight from Ian Green and Alexander Castro. And overall, listen, man, Don King is 91 years old. But him and his whole staff as matchmakers, like I'm not just saying this because I was there and they gave me a press pass. Like it was actually an enjoyable card. It was a half decent night of boxing. So even at his advanced age, Don King's still putting on some really, really good fights. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you had a chance to watch, give me your thoughts. If you didn't watch, let me tell you this: if you didn't watch any of these fights and you have no clue what the hell I'm talking about, stay tuned. I will have fights and highlights from these fights coming out here on the channel, so make sure you guys stay tuned for that and keep it locked at True School Sports, and you guys can give me your thoughts once you watch the footage and whatnot. But anyway, you guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure you guys take the time to subscribe, and like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys. Thank you for watching another video on the untouchable True School Sports Empire. For more great boxing content just like this video, click right here and make sure you subscribe. Much love from sunny South Florida.